"You have no right to take my son," she screamed, clinging to the small hands of the boy already being pulled away by a uniformed arm. "You're being detained for child abduction, ma'am," came the cold reply. "He's my son." Her voice cracked as a second officer twisted her wrists behind her back. "She has no documents." "Nothing." Another voice, distant, uncaring. It happened in broad daylight. A shopping center parking lot. People walked by. No one asked. No one intervened. 40 minutes later, she sat in a holding cell. No son. No name. No voice. And she didn't know it yet. The system was about to erase her completely. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from. "Take off your hood, baby," Jayla said softly, wiping melted ice cream from her son's cheek. "It's cold," he mumbled, his voice muffled beneath the fabric. "Just for a second, so I can fix your collar." She never got to. They were in the parking lot of a Target store in Jacksonville, Florida. Saturday afternoon sun, crowded lanes, grocery bags in the trunk. Jayla didn't see them approach, not until one stood in front of her, hand resting on his belt. "Ma'am, may I speak with you?" the officer asked. She turned, puzzled. "Of course. What's wrong?" A second officer circled behind her. The tone wasn't friendly. "Is this your child?" the first asked, pointing at the boy. Jayla's brows lifted. "Yes. Why are you asking?" "We got a report. Black woman with a white child. Possible abduction." Jayla froze. The words hit like static. "A report? About her?" "This is my son. His name is Caleb. He's 6. He's biracial. His father is Peruvian. Do you have documentation proving that?" "No. I wasn't planning on being interrogated at a Target parking lot today." The officers didn't smile. "Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to step away from the child." "No," she said immediately. Her voice was sharper now. "You're not separating us." She reached for her phone. It vanished, plucked from her hand by the officer behind her. "No phone calls until after processing," he said coldly. "Processing? You're resisting investigation. I want an attorney." But her words didn't stop the next movement. The third officer had arrived, she didn't even notice when. He opened the back door of the squad car. Caleb whimpered and gripped her leg. "Mommy, what's happening?" "Nothing, baby. Everything's okay," Jayla said, even as her hands began to shake. "Don't scare him," she said louder, to the officers. "You're terrifying a child. You don't have ID for him. No custody papers. You match the report." "We're within protocol," one of them said. Protocol. That word. A shield they used to silence the innocent. Jayla knelt and hugged Caleb tightly. "Don't let them take me," he cried. "No one's taking you," she whispered. But she was lying. She felt it. They were. The moment she stood back up, the cuffs came out. "Turn around," the officer barked. Jayla didn't argue. Not because she agreed, but because she knew what happened to people who did. Especially people who looked like her. As she was shoved into the back seat, Caleb screamed. His hands slapped the window. She saw his face once more before the car pulled away. Pressed against the glass. Red. Wet. Confused. That was the last time she saw him that day. The cell was cold. Fluorescent lights. Metal bench. No clock. No answers. She sat alone, wrist marked, her hoodie stained from the floor. No one had spoken to her since she was fingerprinted. Was Caleb crying? Was he safe? With who? She tried to speak once. "Can I please, wait to be processed?" Someone snapped. She leaned her head back against the wall, but her thoughts didn't stop. They spun. This wasn't about a report. This was about her face. Her skin. Her silence. And the system was moving fast. Too fast for the truth to catch up. The door opened, and a man stepped in. Plain suit, thin frame, tired eyes. "Name?" he asked, not sitting down. "Jayla Monroe." "You got ID?" "You already took it." He didn't look up. "Right. Alleged abduction. Mother claims child. No paperwork." "Alleged," she repeated. "That's my son." The man raised one eyebrow, finally making eye contact. "You don't seem upset." Jayla blinked. "I was screaming in a parking lot. I'm cuffed. I don't know where my child is. What emotion are you expecting?" Silence. He pulled a chair back roughly and sat down, flipping through a file. "You're not listed on the birth certificate." "That's impossible." "Father is listed." "You're not." Jayla's stomach dropped. "His name is Mateo Herrera. But I—" The man raised a hand. "Save it. We're contacting the father." Jayla tried to breathe. Mateo hadn't seen Caleb in years. He wouldn't help her. He had money, influence, and resentment. She leaned forward. He was abusive. He won't tell the truth. That's not what his file says. You've read his file? He didn't answer. She exhaled slowly. I have school records, medical forms, letters from his pediatrician. I can get them. You'll have your chance. After arraignment. When is that? He stood. Could be tomorrow. Could be Monday. Depends on the docket. It's Thursday. Yep. You're telling me you're holding me until next week? No bail until arraignment. You're a risk. Minor involved. She stood. You can't keep a mother from her child. He didn't flinch. We're not. If it turns out you're the mother, you'll get to explain everything. Until then. Where is he? She interrupted. Her voice cracked. Where's my son? He picked up the folder and walked to the door. Child Protective Services took custody an hour ago. The door closed behind him. A heavy click. She stood there for several seconds. Not crying. Not breathing. Just frozen. They had taken her child. And no one, not even the system, was planning to give him back. She sat down again, hands trembling. They had no proof. No warrants. No hearing. Just a report from someone who saw a light-skinned child with a dark-skinned mother. She looked down at her hoodie. It was stained. Her hands were dry from the fingerprint ink. Her eyes felt hollow. They don't see me, she thought. Not as a mother. Not as a person. Her thoughts spun to Caleb. How scared was he? Who was holding his hand now? Did he ask for her? Did they tell him anything? A buzzer sounded, and the door opened again. Come on, said a new voice. A guard. Where? Temporary cell block. Jayla didn't ask questions. She walked. Because when the system doesn't see you. Asking questions feels like screaming into an empty room. The cell was smaller than she expected. No windows. Concrete walls. A stainless steel toilet bolted to the corner. Jayla sat on the lower bunk, arms wrapped around herself. Her hoodie still smelled like Target. Her son's laughter still echoed faintly in her ears. But that version of reality felt a lifetime away. Every few minutes, footsteps passed the door. A metal slot opened. I stared in. Then silence again. She waited for someone, anyone, to speak to her. A phone call. A public defender. A caseworker. But nothing came. Hours passed. Maybe more. There was no clock. Just the flickering buzz of the ceiling light and the distant clang of other cells. Then the door opened. A woman entered. Tall. Uniformed. Clipboard in hand. Monroe. Jayla stood. Yes. Can I please make a call? The woman didn't answer. She just stared. You're the one from the parking lot? Yes. A long pause. Then the woman stepped closer. You know. I've worked here 18 years. Seen a lot of people try to pull things. Jayla frowned. I didn't pull anything. That's my son. You got any proof of that? Jayla's voice hardened. I wasn't carrying a DNA test to buy orange juice. The woman smirked. Right. You think we're stupid? We get women in here all the time claiming kids for the check. Jayla flinched. I'm not on assistance, she said quietly. The woman leaned in closer. He doesn't look like you. That's the thing. I saw the photo. Fair skin. Hazel eyes. Doesn't add up. Jayla's stomach twisted. You saw a photo? The woman smiled. Yeah. CPS emailed it to confirm the placement. Little things already been moved. Safe house, different county. Just in case you try anything. Jayla felt the floor drop. Different county? Standard. Less paperwork if we gotta keep him longer. I haven't even had a hearing. Doesn't matter. Custody's provisional once we get the flag. You're flagged now. Jayla's breath caught. Flagged for what? The woman checked her clipboard. Says here, potential parental fraud. Inconsistent documentation. Unverified maternal claim. Refused cooperation. I didn't refuse. I asked for a lawyer. The woman turned to leave. Yeah, that's what they all say. Jayla took a step forward. Please. I need a call. My friend has Caleb's birth certificate. She's in town. She can bring it. Too late for that now, the woman said, cutting her off. Case is already transferred. You'll have to wait for formal petition. Might take weeks. Jayla stood there, frozen. Weeks? What happens to him in the meantime? She asked. The woman paused in the doorway. He'll be evaluated. Placed if needed. Most kids adjust. Jayla whispered, he won't understand. He'll think I left him. The woman didn't answer. She just stepped out. The door slammed shut. And Jayla finally let her legs give out. She dropped to the floor. Because now it wasn't just fear. It was something colder. Deeper. The system didn't think she was a mother. And the longer she stayed inside, the more it would rewrite who she was. Jayla sat across from a new face. A man in a gray blazer. Clean shave. Polite smile. Clipboard, of course. He introduced himself like it was a formality. Mr. Phelps. Family Services Liaison. Jayla didn't return the smile. He flipped a page. I just want to ask a few questions about your history, Ms. Monroe. I haven't been charged with anything, she said flatly. You've been flagged under emergency protection guidelines. That gives us jurisdiction to assess the welfare of the child. He's not the child. He's Caleb. He has a name. Phelps paused, then continued. Any history of mental health treatment? Jayla blinked. What? Hospitalizations. Diagnosed conditions. Medications. No. Substance use. No. Have you ever been investigated by child services before? No. Phelps scribbled something anyway. Jayla leaned forward. Are you writing no? I'm writing that you appear defensive during standard inquiry. Because you're treating me like a threat to my own son. He didn't respond. Instead, he pulled a document from his folder. This is a preliminary affidavit from CPS. Based on officer reports, lack of immediate documentation, and observed behavior, they've submitted a petition to suspend maternal rights pending review. Jayla stared at the page. There was no hearing. No due process. This is the process, he said calmly. I want to see Caleb. That decision is no longer up to you. Jayla's voice cracked. He's 6. He still asks if dinosaurs are real. He still thinks the moon follows the car at night. He needs me. Phelps nodded, without looking up. We understand transitions are difficult. I'm not dead, she whispered. Another page turned. Are you aware the biological father has filed for emergency custody? Jayla froze. Mateo. He's petitioned the court through an attorney. Filed same day. Of course he did. He never wanted custody, only control. He couldn't handle that Jayla had raised Caleb alone. But now? Now he had the system behind him. Does he have a record? She asked. That's not relevant to the emergency review. He was investigated for assault in 2019. Police dropped it because I didn't testify. Phelps looked up. Is there documentation? No. I was scared. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. Phelps sighed, gathering his files. You'll have an opportunity to present this information at your preliminary hearing. But that may take time. Meanwhile, custody has shifted to temporary guardianship. Jayla's eyes burned. You act like he's a parcel. Like you're just rerouting delivery. We're protecting the child, he said. Jayla stood. Her voice didn't shake this time. No, you're protecting a lie. And you think if you repeat it long enough, it becomes the truth. The guard at the door motioned. Phelps stepped out without another word. Jayla was left alone again. Later that night, she was given a pen. A blank form. A box labeled emergency contact. She stared at it for a long time. Then slowly, she wrote. There's no one. Just me. And that was the truth the system refused to believe. The tray slid through the slot. Plastic spoon. Cold oats. No milk. Jayla stared at it. She didn't touch it. Tom was slippery now. Day? Night? She didn't know. She sat on the cot, knees drawn to her chest, when the door opened suddenly. It wasn't the guard this time. It was a clerk. Young, distracted, holding a manila folder. Miss Monroe. Jayla looked up. I need your signature here. The clerk said, holding out a pen. For the record. Initial here, full name here. What is it? Intake confirmation. Transfer to county oversight. Jayla took the pen, but paused. Her eyes scanned the top of the document. Then she saw it. A copy of the CPS internal memo, left accidentally behind the top sheet. Her fingers gripped the edge of the folder. Can I have a minute? She asked. The clerk glanced at his watch. I guess. Just leave it on the bed. He stepped out. Door still open. Jayla didn't wait. She flipped the memo up and read. Case number, FL J39429. Guardian claim refuted. Biological father confirmed. Confirmed? There was a name listed as verifier. Emily Draves. Jayla blinked. She knew that name. Emily Draves was not a court liaison. She was Mateo's sister. A hospital administrator with no legal position in the case. Jayla's hands trembled. They had accepted a confirmation from a family member without disclosing the conflict of interest. No court authorization. No neutral verification. This wasn't just bias. This was a procedural breach. The kind lawyers built reversals on. She quickly memorized the document number. The door creaked. The clerk stepped back in. Did you sign? Jayla handed it back, eyes empty. Sure. He left. not noticing the faint indentation she'd left in the mattress with her elbow. J39429. Draves. That night, Jayla didn't sleep. Her mind wasn't circling fear anymore. It was mapping a plan. She began listing what she knew. 1. CPS used non-official confirmation from a party with clear conflict. 2. No court order was served before removal. 3. The arrest report lacked probable cause. No description, no matching incident. 4. She had documentation at home that could prove custody. What she didn't have: a phone, a lawyer, a clock. But now she had a number. J39429. The next morning, during the health check, she tried. "Ma'am," she asked the nurse, "I think the clerk gave me the wrong record yesterday. The memo said Draves, but that's not my caseworker. Could I speak to someone?" The nurse didn't blink. "That's not my department." But Jayla saw the twitch in her expression. The name meant something, and that meant the memo was real. She laid back in the cot. Everything was still stacked against her. But now she had her first crack in the wall. And Jayla Monroe had always known. All it takes is one. Jayla was silent during breakfast, but her eyes scanned everything. 2 guards by the desk. 1 rookie, 1 disinterested. Same nurse from yesterday. Clipboard in hand. Keys at her waist. At exactly 9:17 a.m., the same clerk returned. Different folder. Same energy, distracted, impatient. "Monroe," he called. She stood. He didn't look at her. "Got a status update from the court. You'll be transported for preliminary review next Tuesday. 5 days from now?" He shrugged. "Judge's calendar is tight." Jayla didn't argue. She just stared at his folder. "You dropped a CPS memo yesterday," she said calmly. "With the name Draves." He blinked. "What?" "I think it wasn't meant for me. You might want to check what files you're carrying." He hesitated. For a second. Then his face stiffened. "I don't know what you're talking about." And just like that, the wall rebuilt itself. But now, she knew where the crack was. Hours later, in the common area, a laminated flyer sat near the phones. It read, "Inmate Resources, Pro SE Defense Rights." She picked it up. They watched her now. She could feel it. Like the system suddenly realized she wasn't just waiting to be processed. She was planning. That night, a different guard delivered the new intake packet. He smirked. "You a lawyer now?" Jayla looked up. "No, but I studied law. For years. Left before the bar." The guard blinked. "You serious?" She nodded. "Magna cum laude. U Miami." He snorted. "Doesn't matter now." She smiled faintly. "Not yet." As the door closed, she unfolded the new packet. Inside was a grievance form. Basic. Designed for medical issues, meal complaints. But she didn't care. She wrote, "Case number fell, J39429 contains unlawful conflict of interest. CPS contact Emily Draves is related to petitioning guardian. Removal occurred without hearing. Counsel denied. Motion to challenge removal and request judicial review per Chapter 39.4028H, Florida statutes." She folded it once, carefully. The next morning, during med check, she handed it to the nurse. "Medical?" the nurse asked. "No. Legal. You're not allowed to file motions from holding." Jayla met her eyes. "It's not a motion. It's a grievance." "And what do you expect to happen?" Jayla answered evenly. "I expect someone to realize I read more than cereal boxes." 2 days passed. Then 3. Nothing. Until the 4th morning, when a sharp knock came at 6:30 a.m. "Monroe, let's go." She was cuffed, escorted to intake, then placed in a small private room. A woman was waiting. Older. Blazer. Badge. "Ms. Monroe, I'm Officer Langston. Internal Affairs. You filed a grievance?" Jayla sat down. Quiet. Measured. "Yes, I did." Langston placed a folder on the table. "What exactly do you know about case number FL, J39429? Jayla leaned forward, her voice calm. "Enough to know it was built on a lie." Langston sat with her hands folded. No smile. No small talk. "Ms. Monroe, you're currently being held under emergency protective custody, pending judicial review." Jayla nodded once. "I'm aware. You submitted a written grievance citing procedural misconduct by a CPS contact. Emily Draves. Mateo Herrera's sister," Jayla replied. "A hospital administrator, not an investigator. She had no standing to validate custody." Langston didn't confirm or deny. Just flipped a page. "Where did you obtain the memo?" Jayla paused. "It was included by mistake. During document signature." Did you retain it? No. I memorized the file number. And the name. Langston leaned back. That memo wasn't meant for you. You understand that. Jayla didn't blink. Yes. I also understand it invalidates the emergency placement. The door opened again. A second woman entered. Younger. Designer heels. Laptop case. Langston introduced her with a nod. This is Director Nina Creel, CPS Regional Attorney. Jayla's breath tightened. Creel didn't sit. She placed her case on the table, opened it, and pulled out a folder marked Monroe in red letters. Ms. Monroe, she began coolly. We reviewed your grievance. Jayla waited. Creel continued. The memo from Ms. Draves was used as preliminary evidence in a time-sensitive removal. It was supported by officer statements and observed inconsistencies. Jayla's jaw clenched. Such as, you provided no custody paperwork at the time of arrest, no legal ID for the child, no immediate contact able to verify maternal status. And that justifies giving my son to a man with documented accusations of domestic violence? Creel paused. There are no active charges against Mr. Herrera. We work with the information provided. You accepted hearsay over process. That's not protection. That's negligence. Langston's eyes flicked between them. Creel's tone shifted. Let me be clear. If you continue to pursue legal counteraction, it may delay reunification. Permanency is a factor. Children bond quickly in new placements. Courts consider that. Jayla stared at her. You're threatening me with my own child's emotions? Creel raised an eyebrow. I'm stating policy. Jayla leaned forward. If you think I'll stay quiet because you use soft language and neutral fonts, you don't know me. I've studied family law. I've read termination rulings. I've seen how the state rewrites a mother into a memory. And I'm telling you now. Her voice dropped. You picked the wrong file to mishandle. Silence. Langston stood slowly. We're transferring you to county holding. You'll receive a formal review in 2 days. If the judge finds merit in your claims, CPS will be required to respond. Jayla stood, hands ready for cuffs. Creel spoke once more. You won't win this in court. You don't have the power. Jayla answered without turning around. I don't need power. I need the truth. And the record. And with that, she walked out. Not because they let her, but because she was already one step ahead. The courtroom smelled of dust and varnish. Light filtered through thick blinds. Jayla sat alone at the defense table. No attorney. No supporter. Just a small stack of handwritten notes. Across from her, CPS attorney Nina Creel organized binders like weapons. Calm. Efficient. Dismissive. The judge entered, gray suit, no robe. Civil family court. Ms. Monroe, he said, glancing at his docket. You're appearing pro se? Yes, Your Honor. And you were objecting to the emergency custody transfer based on a procedural violation? Jayla stood. That's correct. Creel rose immediately. Your Honor, we'd like to begin by noting the absence of formal documentation from Ms. Monroe. No birth certificate, no school records, no medical authorization presented. Jayla replied, they're at my residence. I was arrested in a parking lot. The judge nodded slowly. Do you have anyone who can verify custody on your behalf? My former daycare provider submitted a notarized affidavit. It should be in the file. Creel interrupted. It was received after filing deadlines. We request exclusion. Jayla's stomach turned. She looked directly at the judge. Your Honor, this entire process was built on a rushed memo from a hospital employee who is the petitioner's sister. That same memo was used to justify the removal of my son, without a verified court order, without a neutral investigation, and without contact with me. The judge leaned back. Do you have proof of that conflict? I don't have the original memo, but the name was printed on the top. I memorized the file ID. CPS has a record of who authored it. Creel stayed composed. There is no confirmed conflict of interest. Ms. Draves acted in good faith to validate the father's statement. Jayla didn't hesitate. Then why was her name not disclosed in the original affidavit? The courtroom went still. The judge looked down at his notes. Then, in the smallest of nods, he gestured. CPS will be required to produce verification of all contributors to the emergency removal memo. Creel's jaw tensed, but she said nothing. Jayla continued, voice steady. Additionally, I request a temporary restraining order on physical relocation of my son until the identity of all parties is confirmed. Creel objected. Ms. Monroe has no legal standing until custody is reestablished. Jayla answered quickly. Florida Statute 39.4028 H allows any biological parent to request review if removal was executed under questionable grounds. The judge raised an eyebrow. That's correct. He scribbled something on his pad. Hearing adjourned until Thursday. CPS must submit internal correspondence logs and memo authorship. Jayla sat back down. Her legs were shaking, but she didn't show it. Creel gathered her files. As she passed, she whispered, "That won't help you. The system doesn't care how well you quote law." Jayla didn't even look at her. She whispered back, "It doesn't have to care. It just has to listen." Jayla waited in the narrow hallway outside the courtroom. Thursday. Decision day. A bailiff opened the door. Inside. "Let's go." She stepped into the chamber. Same judge. Same cold walls. Only now new faces. One of them she recognized instantly. Mateo Herrera. Slick blazer. Gold cufflinks. No eye contact. Creel stood beside him, armed with another file. "Vic." She smiled like someone who'd been saving their final card. "Your Honor," she began, "we have supplemental evidence regarding Ms. Monroe's fitness as a guardian." Jayla's spine straightened. Creel continued, "We've obtained records from a 2017 campus incident in which Ms. Monroe was reported for erratic behavior and removed from legal practicum rotation." Jayla flinched. Creel opened the file. The report included accusations of verbal aggression and mental fatigue. Though no formal charges were filed, the report was retained by the academic committee. Jayla stood slowly. "May I respond, Your Honor?" The judge nodded. "That report was filed 3 days after I filed a Title IX complaint against a faculty member for harassment. The incident was retaliation." Creel smiled faintly. "There's no documentation supporting that." Jayla didn't blink. "There wouldn't be. The university settled with me out of court and sealed the case." A pause. The judge looked up. "Do you have any proof of that settlement?" Jayla reached into her folder, carefully removed a folded, faded copy of a signed release. Creel's smile faded. "I brought it because I knew they'd come with this." She stepped forward. "You want to talk about fitness, Your Honor? I raised Caleb alone, paid every hospital bill, picked him up from school, slept on the floor during his fevers. There's no report on that, because it wasn't dramatic enough to write down." She looked directly at Mateo now. "This man never called, never visited. He only showed up when he realized he could take something from me." Mateo's face stayed blank. Silent. Creel tried to pivot. "This doesn't change the fact that Ms. Monroe has no current income, no verified housing, and no support system." Jayla answered calmly. "My apartment lease is in my name. Rent fully paid for 6 months. My employer placed me on administrative leave, not termination. And as for a support system," she paused, "I may not have one on paper, but I never needed one to raise my son." The judge scribbled something, then looked up. "I'll deliver my ruling tomorrow morning. All parties dismissed." Jayla exhaled slowly. As she turned to leave, Mateo finally spoke. "You think a judge is going to give you custody back just because you talk like a lawyer?" Jayla didn't stop walking. She said only one thing. "I don't need them to see me as a lawyer." She opened the courtroom door. "I just need them to finally see me as a mother." Friday morning. Same courtroom. Same silence. Jayla sat at the defense table, hands folded. No notes. Just a thin envelope in her lap. The one with Caleb's last drawing from kindergarten. A son with legs. A dinosaur with hearts for teeth. The judge entered. No one stood. This wasn't that kind of hearing. He adjusted his glasses. "I've reviewed all submitted documents, including the grievance, CPS memos, custody affidavits, and supplemental materials." Jayla watched his hands, not his face. She knew better than to read expressions. They could lie. The question before this court is not merely procedural. It is personal, and personal questions often come with imperfect evidence. He looked up, but the law demands clarity, and in this case, clarity was obscured. He turned to CPS counsel. "Ms. Creel, you failed to disclose a material conflict in the emergency petition. The memo from Ms. Draves, though perhaps well-intentioned, should not have been used without oversight." Creel shifted in place. Mateo didn't move. The judge continued. "Furthermore, the original officer report failed to confirm any matching description of an act of abduction. The incident was based on racial assumption, not fact." Jayla blinked. Once. Nothing more. He cleared his throat. "This court orders the immediate return of physical custody to Ms. Jayla Monroe, pending ongoing review." Her heart stopped. He turned to Mateo. Mr. Herrera, if you wish to pursue shared custody, you may petition separately. This ruling does not bar future requests, but does not support your current claim. Mateo stood, silent. No outburst. Just quiet, calculated fury. The judge looked to Jayla last. You may collect your son from the County Child Services Center by 4 p.m. today. Bring identification and confirmation of your address. Jayla whispered. Yes, Your Honor. That was all. The gavel never dropped. There was no applause. No headline. Just a chair pushed back. Papers shuffled. Footsteps echoing against cold tile. Outside the courthouse, the sky was overcast. The air smelled like hot cement. She walked 3 blocks in silence. Didn't call anyone. Didn't speak to the guard who nodded as she passed. At 3:58 p.m., she stood in the waiting room of Child Services. The receptionist asked her name. She didn't say law student. Didn't say false arrest. Didn't say I fought this alone. She said, Jayla Monroe. I'm here for my son. The door opened. And there he was. Same hoodie. Same wide eyes. Caleb looked up at her, unsure, cautious. She knelt. Hey, baby. He stared. Then ran. She caught him mid-jump. I missed you, he whispered. I missed you too, she said. Her voice broke. He buried his face in her neck. For the first time in 8 days, she stopped holding her breath. She didn't win a case. She got her child back. And in a system built to erase her. That was everything.